Full disclosure, I'm an animal lover, dog lover, and mice, the rats, maybe a rabbit, but proof is in the pudding now. You can't unscramble an egg. You got to make the omelet larger.
Oh, Doug, you make it too easy. Doug Ford, back in front of the cameras, running his mouth, doing what he does best, making things worse for Canada, and putting the blame on Trump. Welcome to the channel. If you could, please hit that like button. It really helps the video get out. And if you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. We've been warned by the U.S. Ambassador to Canada and the United States Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, that these types of comments are not a good idea.
This is a serious time for our province and our country, with President Trump taking direct aim at our economy. That's how we're going to beat President Trump, making sure we're more competitive than they are. In the face of tariffs from President Trump, we have two choices with President Trump. You roll over or you fight like we've never fought before. And I think all 41 million Canadians would rather fight like they've never fought before. And there's one thing President Trump has done. One thing. That's the only credit I'm going to give this guy, is he's united the country. He's united the country no matter what political stripe you're from. We're all Canadians, we're all Ontarians, and we're going to fight like no tomorrow.
We really need to muzzle this guy. Maybe give him a shovel, drop him off on the 401 to start digging that tunnel he keeps talking about. These type of comments are doing absolutely nothing to help with the trade negotiations. The only thing it is doing is diverting attention away from the real problem, an incompetent Liberal government. Until that is fixed, the problems we have in Canada will not get solved. They will only get worse. Now a clip from the Toronto Sun showing just that.
Seems that the Carney Liberals have just stopped releasing public information through the open portal dataset on the government website on how many immigrants were getting into this country. There hasn't been an update since the March numbers, and those came out in May. Well, what's happening now? Are we still bringing in massive amounts of people? It's kind of weird because we're getting, mixed signals from Statistics Canada. On the one hand, their quarterly population estimate for the first 3 months of this year said, there was virtually no growth. There were only about 20,000 people added in the first quarter. Well, that's weird because their monthly jobs report, the labor force survey, was showing that about 96,000 people were added to the workforce in those first 3 months. Canada doesn't have a growing population of people 15 and older due to a baby boom. It's only happening due to immigration. Now, those numbers would be lower than a year or two ago, but they're still quite high. 32,000 people per month coming into the country and added to the labor force. That doesn't include children and people that aren't in the labor force. So that's an increase. We can see from the real-time population clock that StatsCan has that we've added about 1 million people over the past 18 months. How many over the past 3 months, 6 months? We don't know. We are not being told the proper information, and I think Michelle Rempel is right. The government's doing this for political reasons. They realize that they messed up the system that Canadians used to support wholeheartedly, and now they're dealing with a system that is broken, one that has become controversial, one that has become a lightning rod, and the reason it is all those things is because of bad Liberal policy. Are the Liberals going to fix it, or are they just going to keep hiding the numbers or fudging the numbers? We'll see what happens when they finally start releasing the data.
The Liberal government not being transparent with the public about current immigration numbers, and this is obviously a pattern. They hide critical data and dodge accountability. Whether it's immigration, the economy, housing, or public safety, they seem to fail at almost everything they touch. And Canadians are the ones left paying the price. Let me know in the comments, is there anything you think the Liberals are doing right? Now, if the trade war with the US wasn't enough, now things are heating up with China.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us here this morning. Just by way of starting, I will offer a few comments, and I would say I am extremely disappointed with respect to the decision that the country of China has made in further increasing their temporary tariffs on our canola seeds, which will add to the existing tariffs on canola oil and meal. This is a response to the government's tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles largely, and China's decision to impose preliminary anti-dumping duties, or what we would call temporary tariffs, is set at 75.8%. That's on Canadian canola seed as of August the 14th, this Thursday. That will have a devastating impact on the price points for Saskatchewan's canola industry, and I would say ultimately Saskatchewan's ag producers. This comes on top of the decision that China made in March of this year to impose 100% tariffs on Canadian canola oil canola meal, as well as pea imports, and added to that some pork and seafood exports as well. To put this in context, this $43 to $45 billion canola industry, the Canadian canola industry that we have, employing just over 200,000 people, that is significantly larger than the steel industry, the aluminum industry, and the car manufacturing industry combined. It's about the same size as the Canadian forestry industry, of which we saw significant supports for just this past week.
A response to the government's tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Loss after loss, not only for the Liberals but for Canada, and yet we still have people that support them. A recent poll from Abacus Data showed that the support for the Liberals remains unchanged. That was based off just under 1,700 people surveyed. If these numbers are accurate, it's going to take Canada being completely decimated before anything changes in this country. And it goes to show just the level of intelligence we have here. Now to the CBC, power and politics, and the US federal government's takeover of the DC police. And as always, let's put the blame on Trump.
Now, more federal law enforcement agents are highly visible on the streets of Washington, D.C. The White House is defending its decision to take over local police and deploy the National Guard. They say it's an emergency because of violent crime.
I think it's despicable that Democrats cannot agree that we need more law and order in a city that has been ravaged by violence, crime, murders, property theft. This should be a winning issue for all Americans.
But statistics from local police suggest crime has actually been steadily decreasing in D.C. And there are broader questions about why the president is doing this now.
But the reality is that D.C. has had and continues to have a serious violent crime problem.
So even if there are concerns from the people that live there when it comes to crime, there is strong opposition to the approach the White House is taking. From a Canadian perspective, something that I've heard quite a bit from people here, ever since this sort of developed for the last 24 hours or so, or we started hearing about it earlier than that, how does the White House, or is the White House doing anything to sort of justify this decision to declare an emergency, take control of local police, bring in the National Guard? So even if there are concerns from the people that live there when it comes to crime, there is strong opposition to the approach the White House is taking.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's certainly the case that the city doesn't like having power wrested away from it by the president. And there are two arguments you can make about what happened. One is that, the president sees DC as an opportunity to demonstrate his theory of the case, in some senses to use the city as almost a punching bag and say, look, Democrats don't run the city well, Republicans will run cities well. It's a political opportunity. But then the other argument is the city really has gotten worse under continuous rule by one party. And so if I were to make the argument the other direction, I would say the city's leaders are unhappy. They don't like the intrusion of the federal government. They haven't done a great job in recent years.
They talk about crime decrease in DC. Well, that's not true. I did a video on it yesterday. The numbers they are giving you are not accurate at all. They were picked to show a decrease after a large spike in crime, which makes it look like things are on a downward trend. Not only that, but the mayor said it wouldn't be a bad thing having more law enforcement. And the DC police were extremely happy about this. This is what you get from the mainstream media. Lies, so they can put the blame on Trump. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.